या सब है, अब सब है. All right. Sai Ram.
Yes, ready.
Sai Ram. Okay, we have 2 minutes. Just confirming if anyone is online to just let us know if you can hear us. Okay. Thank you. Why is it saying? Working?
Did you unmute, sir?
Yeah. Sai Ram. It is working. I have already tested. Sai Ram. Waiting, man. I am here because it says one watching. You can't hear? No, that is, did it start? Did it start yet or no?
Yeah.
So you have to go to Sri Satya Sai channel. That's the one. The link is not problem. That's right. Still trying to figure out how. Can you hear?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. It's 5 p.m. and let's start our study circle with 3 ohms today. Oh. 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 Let's continue with a prayer to Swami. Dear Swami, we are so grateful to be able to meet here together in your presence today. While we are here together studying your word in your bhagavatha vahini, we ask that you open our ears and hearts to whatever it is you want us to learn. Please speak through each one of us and help us progress in our spiritual journey. Jai Sai Ram. Just a few housekeeping etiquette. If you could please mute your cell phones. Let's try to be respectful and, of course, always talk from your heart. And let us try to leave our ego outside so it's easier for us to learn the lessons that we have to today. Sai Ram. So just as a little review from last session, we had a real in-depth discussion, starting with Yudhishthira feeling sinful and how mind and feelings are connected. We talked about the dharma as per the role, as in karma and dharma, the actions there. And then we also talked about defining dharma, who decides that, and how does one know it's the right action. And then we talked about karma and dharma, actions that are right actions, and then the role of the mind. we continued with Krishna's comment on be calm, be happy, and what it means in this context, in the context of the chapter 4 of Bhagavatha Vahini. And then we started our discussion on happiness. What is happiness? What is worldly happiness? We did not finish it. We just started defining what is happiness and what is worldly happiness. And then we talked a little bit about the role of the mind. So I just want to open this up for any questions or comments before we move on. Okay, so we can just get continue, Sairam. And so just wanted to bring everyone together to just say, what does Krishna mean? This is where we stopped last time when he said, when he actually asked Yudhishthira, why do you dread imaginary calamities and seek remedies for non-existent sins? Be calm, be happy. That's what Krishna said. And that's when I thought it was a great way to get into the discussion of happiness. And we read the story of Brigu about in the Taittiriya Upanishad, and about how his father, you know, introduced him to what is real happiness. And that is the piece. If you want, we can read the story again, and I'll have to ask Bhargav to read it, just so that to refresh everyone's memory, and then we can continue with our discussion. Sairam.
In the Brigu section of the Taittiriya Upanishad, which comes after the Bliss of Brahman section, is the story of Brigu, son of Varuna. While teaching Brigu the Brahman phenomenon, self-realization, Varuna says, "Son, Brahman cannot be seen through the eyes. Know that Brahman is that which enables the eyes to see and the ears to hear. He can be known only through extreme yearning in a cleansed mind and concentrated thought. No other means can help." He added, "Dear Brigu, know that everything in the universe originates from Brahman, divinity, exists in Brahman, unfolds through Brahman, and emerges in Brahman alone. Discover it yourself through concentrated spiritual practice." The father gave him only these indications before directing him to enter upon spiritual exercises that would ultimately reveal the truth. With full faith in the words of his father, Brigu engaged in concentrated spiritual practice. The process of self control and self inquiry raised his consciousness, and he believed what he understood at that stage as Brahman and decided that food was Brahman. When he declared what he had come to know, his father Varuna told him that his answer was not right. So Brigu continued the spiritual practices and found out that vital air, prana, was Brahman. Since without vital air, other things are vain. Vital air causes life, promotes life, and puts an end to life. But his father also pronounced his inference wrong and sent him again for spiritual practice. In this manner, Brigu had a third period of austerity when he came upon mind, manas, as Brahman, and later a fourth when he revised that conclusion and believed that it was spiritual wisdom, vijnana. At last, after undergoing a fifth course of spiritual practices, he became aware that spiritual bliss, ananda, was Brahman. He stayed in the bliss of that awareness and never more proceeded to his father. The father sought Brigu and congratulated him, who had cast the world away from his memory. He said, "Son, you have merged in that vision." Sutra Vahini, chapter 3.
Thank you, Bhargav. So, following that, we had talked about what is happiness as in a dictionary definition of how you feel joyful. And then we talked about what is worldly happiness. And the most easiest way, or to rephrase everything, we just said worldly happiness is the happiness that you find outside whatever makes you happy, maybe good food, family, whatever it is, all those causes that we find to define happiness for us. So what is the most common thought when it comes to happiness? What do we think, or how do we define it? You think?
See, when we think of happiness, it's the feeling that we get when whatever we want is satisfied. First of all, that cannot be, that is all worldly, because the fact that we want is in the future and we are not assured of it. So there is a big if there. If you have a want and if that want is satisfied, then you're going to be happy. So if you look at the probability, there are two ifs there. So there is a 25% chance if it is satisfied or unsatisfied, or if it is met or unmet. So there itself goes that probability of being happy in anything that you desire in the worldly level. But that is, in my opinion, worldly happiness. I mean, I don't want to go.
So lot of times in our regular lives, when we say happiness, a lot of times people equate it with pleasure, right? Or satisfaction, or some enjoyment. These are the common ones. You know, pleasure, like if you eat something nice, it gives you immediate pleasure. So you think you're happy because you got what you wanted. But enjoyment is a little different. You know, it is a little bit more lasting than pleasure. Pleasure sometimes is through the scientifically explained through dopamine pathways to the limbic system. So it is like an immediate hit. You get a pleasure, and then it wears off quickly. But the next time the brain tells you, go for it some more. But if you eat the same amount of sweet, it gives you the same amount of pleasure. You have to do more. So that becomes like an addictive pathway, you know, to get that. But that is something that we think makes us happy. Enjoyment is more like when you spend with groups of people, right? Like this kind of thing also gives you happiness. Why do you come back again and again for this? Because it's a little bit more lasting type of happiness. It's more like with people in company, you enjoy it. You know, satisfaction is a little bit higher level. It is more lasting than that. But the best is, of course, having some purpose and meaning, right? Nothing gives you more real happiness than love, than you know, doing service, selfless service. And those are the spiritual types of happiness. So there is this mundane, like earthly level of happiness, all these little things that we call, you know, happiness. And then this ultimate level where it's like a permanent thing. Once you realize it like Brahman. There is no going down or above it. It's just that. That's my.
I would feel happiness. It's an emotion, and we can experience that emotion through just about anything. Looking at a flower, you're happy, or we get a lottery, $1,000,000,000, you'll be very happy, and so I would feel it's an emotion being experienced in every different way.
No problem. Yes.
Sairam, see, before we go into that one, if you list, I was reflecting on the story, Brigu's story. His father doesn't say to go and find happiness. His father says, let's go into that, this one. Brahman phenomenon, which while teaching Bhrigu the Brahman phenomenon, Varuna says, Brahman cannot be seen. Know that Brahman is that which enables, he cannot, okay, all that. But he never mentions that happiness there. But if you have realized and be in that Brahman, you're going to be happy because you don't have any expectations. You've gone past all that. See, if you look at the logic of Bhrigu also, first he felt food, because food is the one that gives us energy. So if there is no food, we are not going to be alive. So he thinks food is the one that is Brahman. Then he thinks that without air, we cannot survive. So air is the one. So the logic is right there, because you go and try to find the source of your life. Then he realizes that Brahman is the only one, because that there is nothing else there.
So he's basically going through the Panchakoshas. If you explain, right? Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, mind level happiness, then Vijnanamaya, intellect is more superior, and then the Anandamaya. So once you're there, you're there. There's no coming down from it anymore. But it's a progressive climb, and we all will go through those stages. When you're younger, we are in that lower level, right? Whatever gives you the first toy or whatnot. And then slowly, hopefully, because that's what is supposed to happen.
Yes.
Hopefully.
So, yeah, just as that, right? So, even initially, I thought of this, and then I thought Swami has kind of given us a lot of quotes on happiness. So, I thought we'll pick a few quotes just because certain things really help us identify where we are. So, just coming to this quote here, he says, the root cause for all troubles we face is that we forget God and hanker after illusory worldly things. Happiness or sorrow is all our own making. God is blissful. He always gives us happiness, joy, and bliss. We, out of our illusion, misinterpret God's gifts as difficulties and feel sorry for the same. Your own feelings are responsible for your suffering. Hence, change your feelings, develop a positive attitude, and you will never experience pain and suffering. Satya Sai Speaks, Volume 41. So, this is Swami's quote on how happiness is transitory. I mean, it's not permanent. So, what role do you think ego plays, or is it just the mind, whatever you want to call it? And how can we change that? Can we change it? Again, that is something. And is there a way to never experience pain, suffering, or disappointment like Swami is talking about?
I can just see the thing is, when we look at the whole, I mean, if we attribute whatever is happening, see the fact that we are suffering. I mean, if you take the word of suffering, that itself means that you are expecting to be different from what you are experiencing. So if you don't have that expectation, and if you surrender completely that whatever is happening is for your good, you're learning. For example, you're preparing for an examination. So if you look at it, at that time of preparation, it may look like you're putting yourself into a lot of work, a lot of effort. And when you see somebody else, they are relaxing. It may appear like they are watching TV and they are playing outside, and you cannot do all that. You have to prepare. So it looks like at that time, it is a suffering. But then when you pass that examination, then you feel that it's worth doing it. So at every time when you are facing a challenge, if you can see that it is an examination, I am preparing for the exam, it's going to be better for me in the future. If you have that attitude, I think that suffering will go away. And naturally, if there is no suffering, you're not going to have it. I don't know whether you can call it happy state. At least you won't have that suffering state.
Right. So I actually just wanted to let everyone know, if you all are confused why I put ego there, at least my thought process was the only reason that we have these feelings is ego based. What may be happy for you may not be the same for the other person. It's not defined in the same way. The emotion is defined, but not the cause of those things. So I thought all of that actually is a play of the ego, or maybe the mind. That's where I was going with this. So just wanted to clarify there. Is there a way to change our feelings from suffering?
I
Not
don't
sadness.
know if we can change the feelings, but we can change the effect of that feeling. In other words, the feeling may be the same, but you may consider it as suffering if you are attached, if you don't surrender. But at that same time, it may not affect you if you can surrender and think that. For example, that exam preparation phase, you can think like that when you're going through some trouble, maybe official work or maybe health wise, maybe something is going on. If you can think that it's going to be for my good, okay, in future, it's going to be for my good. If we can think in that fashion, You're not going through that suffering.
Yeah, but see, Swami says, change your feelings, develop a positive attitude. Is that easy? I mean, how do you change our feelings? That's
I think that is that positive attitude is what that surrender is the mode through which you can have the positive attitude. That's what I think.
I have a question. So, for example, so this is not about us. So, when you see people suffering, right, in the world right now, they're going through all this war and everything. How, I'm trying to put myself, I don't want to, but I'm just trying to, how would, when you're going through a difficulty like that, or, when someone is sick, how do you interpret that as God's gift? I'm just asking a question. I mean, the things that we go, like, I'm thinking about my things, like, honestly, Sairam, like, regular things that I may think is like, oh, such a big deal is not such a big deal. But I'm trying to think about these people that are going through, like, how would you do that?
Sairam, can answer. I just read a book about Trevor Noah. I don't know if people know about him. He's a big comedian. And so he wrote a book called, forgot the name of the book, but Born in Crime. So he's born in South Africa at the time of apartheid. Just when he was born, his Nelson Mandela was just released. I don't know how many people are familiar with South Africa. It was horribly oppressive. So whites had all the rules, all the colored black people had basically no rights. So they were in utter poverty, and they were all men were always sent off to work in as slaves or somewhere else. Only women with kids were left doing menial jobs. No one got white collar jobs, nothing, forget about it. No education, barely any food. So he was born to a single mom, and he grew up in utter poverty. Now his mom, who also grew up in a much worse state than him, if he writes about his mom, she was sent off for years to stay with some aunt who was very, very poor. Some days she was so hungry, she used to eat mud, apparently, just to fill her stomach. So it's that abject poverty. But they were devout, Catholic Christians. They believed in God so much. Even in that abject poverty and suffering, they never left God. So later on, this lady is such an amazing lady. She somehow learns stenography, learns to type, and then finds a job and feeds her kids and sends them to school and all that. Throughout that, she always found a church to go to pray to. And on Sundays, apparently, they used to go for 3 churches all day, church to church to church. So she used to teach the kids, if anything negative comes, someone says something negative, she took it off as that's not God's word. If anything positive comes, she takes it as that's the God's word. That's what God is telling us to do. So even in the worst of the worst situations, she did the best she can with utmost love and faith. And ultimately, it is amazing. Like, she has this a miracle happen in her life. One time when her ex-husband tries to shoot her, that bullet goes through the head and comes out on the other end. And when they admit to the hospital, they thought she's going to die. I mean, who will live with a bullet going from this end to the other end, right? But that bullet apparently passes through the skull, misses the medulla oblongata, which is if that bullet had touched, she would have been dead on the spot. Goes and strikes the cheekbone, slows down. Instead of going through the socket, it deflects and comes out through the nose. Now, if you don't call that a miracle, I don't know what else to call. Her faith, her love of God, that she kept no matter what happened. I mean, if you read the book, there's so many instances he describes. They're all just like, you would feel like anyone will lose faith in God. There is like, what else are you going to, what is there to look for? There's no food, there's nothing, right? But look at how his life turned out, how his mom is still alive, even with all those things happening. So people still find, if you really believe, then that's what will make you go through. Yeah, we won't look at it as something that, as God's thing, but they are able to see it even in that.
Again, just to answer Sabita's, I think suffering, again, yes, world has a lot of suffering. That I agree that there is a lot of sadness around, but that journey is to each his own at the end of the day. Even in Gaza, when you see there is so many miracles that are happening. I know that we only focus on what the news actually gives us, but there are people who have survived it, and they think they have a purpose now in life because they survived that little bombing or did
Yeah.
something.
So we don't know what God's plan is. We just have to leave it as His plan. And what we can do is just surrender completely and live with that faith. That's a choice you have to make.
It's hard to agree. Looking at that, why God is doing with this, all these people going through so much suffering. This is not my words. If we recollect, we had one person visited our center last year when we had a in this clubhouse, and she mentioned one line, if I remember correct. I don't recollect the exact sentence, but somebody was asking Babaji about the genocide of Jewish people, and the answer was there are no victims. So that's what she said, which is hard to accept that one. But what says that is everybody who is going through that suffering probably had some cause behind it. They might have done something in the past that went through. And most of the cases, sometimes you are in a place where the bad karma is there, and you though you don't have that bad karma, but because of that place, you carry that one. Because a lot of times you see bad people surrounded, even good person will get the suffering because he's surrounded by so much bad karma with alongside. So they go through that problems. So for your question, there is no really speaking why this happens, but that's what I thought of telling. Like everything is because of that.
So I would like to add one thing that Swami Vivekananda says in his books is overall in the world, apparently, according to him, the net good and evil always will remain the same. From ages still going forward, we don't, I mean, we are only in a small fraction of time, right? Our time is what, 60 years, 200 years. But time will keep go on. These young kids, I mean, they're seeing 50 plus more years than us, and so on and so forth. No matter which point of time you're in, he says the net good and evil will always be there. And it makes a lot of sense. Seeing the wars before, we're still seeing the wars. Seeing the famines before, we're still seeing diseases. It just goes on, I think. I think we shouldn't get too caught up in that. Yeah, we have to sympathize, empathize, do our bit to help. That part we can do, but we cannot get caught up in the questions of why and not fair and this and that, because we don't see the whole picture, I think.
So that was so great, your comments. So, so to answer the previous questions, looking at the sufferings, we can be empathetic, sympathetic, but the role of karma does come in. So so this theory was created only to answer this question. Theory of karma was created to answer her question only. There was no other reason to create the theory of karma. To answer all such questions, to satisfy you, to calm you down so that you don't get aggressive about it, or you don't drown yourself trying to help. Would we drown ourselves to help others, being sympathetic? Would we go to that extent, getting yourself drowned or getting yourself disturbed? How much of help should we be providing?
So I will say it is individual, right? There are people who do that. There are people who give up their lives. So many our independence fighters, they have given up their lives. So I can live happily or somebody else can, but maybe not everyone, right? But that's
So
very...
how would you define the end, the ultimate of that? That's what. So everyone has a different attitude, thinking. So that would be his karma. That's his, another different cycle is going on.
Yes.
Everyone's cycle is different. So that's why there's no limit to it, and there's no proper definition to it, how much of help you should be providing, how much is good, how much is not good. These are all relative terms according to your own karmas and your own sanskaras.
Yes, I agree because they also say, right? I mean, Vivekananda says that. He says, if you think so benevolently of yourself that you're helping someone, he says, who are you to help? You are helping God? He says that. I'm like, when I first read that, I was shocked. He's like, yeah, true. What am I doing to help? I'm not helping anyone. I'm helping myself and thinking I'm helping
I
someone.
want to add to the same thing.
Yeah.
One day, a Shishya wanted to go to visit his guru's place because it was his regular duty to go there, and he wanted to perform a duty there. So there was a big wind and storm going on. He thought, how would I reach there today? And so he prayed to God, to his own Guruji, to help calm down this storm. Please calm down this storm so that I can go and do my duty. So another wise man told him, do you know why the storm is coming? This is not, you are just being selfish that you want to perform one duty. By this mode of storm, God has other plans, a bigger plans. He's making the food reach somewhere. He's making the water reach somewhere. He's making the seeds reach somewhere. There's such a bigger thing. It's all relative. We should just concentrate on what is good and bad. But at the end, we cannot beat that plan of Almighty has. We are being selfish when we say that, let me, oh God, do this for me. His plan is much bigger.
Sairam, to add to all this conversation, I always feel Mahabharata, Ramayana, all these scriptures that we read, all are scripts written for us to guide on how we should behave. So all these wars, anything that negative happens, it's all like we learn. And I said this earlier a few years ago. If you notice, the ones who was very humble and has a lot of humility, those people, if you look into their lives, they've actually gone through a lot of sufferings. There are exceptions, of course. Some people might be born in the houses where there is so much like spirituality that maybe the child is already developed. But usually, if you see a humble person, someone who takes everything with equanimity, if you look into their lives, they've gone through a lot of struggles. So I guess struggles come our way to make us better. Saira.
I feel in life, in our simple life, not big things happening in the world, no, simple life which we live. If we can understand or see somehow, this thing there was a karmic cause behind it, not reason that you did this and that, that's why you got it. That reason, no, there was some karmic thing for which the things were put in your life that way. You understand that. Maybe if you could have understood 30 years back, it would have been different, but it didn't. But what I feel is when one can understand the possible karmic reason for it, there's a kind of peace that comes in your own self. That I'm telling by experience. Okay, when I understood by some Swami's divine way, the way he sent it, okay, what was the reason for this thing? Possible only, it's not nothing, this happened, but possibly. But if you understand, as I understood karmically, this was the reason that things were put this way in life, good or bad, whatever. Then what happened? A peace came inside, at least in my mind, there was a peace there. Yeah, there was a reason, something, that's why the way it happened. Still, you wish maybe I wish it hadn't happened like that. That's different. But you can see the reason why it was put that way. I would say that is such a help that all your anger, all your everything, negativity towards it does dissolve. Yeah, I understand that's what the reason. I didn't know it, but but that anger, everything, negativity with that is just gone, dissolved. So this is one perspective, which by experience I'm saying.
Sairam, see, I am reminded of, I think it's Swami's discourse, or I don't remember exactly where I read this one. if you want to explain what movie screen is to a child, how would you do it? You're a father, you have a child, you're going to explain what a movie screen is. Now, the moment you enter the movie theater, already the film is going on. And then the child asks, "Oh, I see that hero going. Is that the screen?" Then the father says, "No, no, no, look behind." Okay, then he says, "Oh, I see the airplane flying. Is that the screen?" So the child doesn't know what the screen is. So how will you explain that? When the movie stops, then you will be able to see the screen and then say that is the screen. So in real life, we don't see, we are all playing a drama. We are all have the roles, we are all playing that, but we don't see the drama because we are involved in it. So when will we be able to see that it's a drama? It's only when we realize that, reach that state of self-realization, only then we will be able to see that the whole thing is drama. For example, a war is going on, a famine is here, a cyclone is hit somewhere. All these are transitory, worldly level. We should not get affected by it.
Right. So again, coming back to, is there a way to change our feelings? So that's basically, you said surrender. We talked about devotion, and we talked about faith. Those are the three things that actually we have pretty much talked about here. So I just want to move on, unless someone wants to add something for this particular. There is another quote by Swami that I thought would give a complete understanding of where we are. I understand that we did not come to, is there a way to never experience pain? We'll come to that. I'm thinking. At least that's the. So if someone has anything to add, please feel free. Meanwhile, I'm just going on. Yeah, can someone please read it? Yeah. Please go ahead, Manoji. You can read the.
If you want to attain happiness, you should understand that happiness is union with God. Every human being imagines that happiness is somewhere outside him and strives to attain it through various activities. How did the ancient sages adore God? They worshipped him with the flower of sacrifice and offered their love to him. They welcomed God as the embodiment of truth. They believed in love, kindness, and oneness. They offered him the throne of their hearts. Only through such sublime aberration they attained divinity. Therefore, even today's man ought to install God in the altar of his heart and adore him there.
All right. So coming to that, if we can actually install God, is that is the ultimate goal, I think. But how can we attain the happiness through that? Is that a solution to happiness? Are we talking about that? That's what I'm trying to understand here.
So, what exactly? Yeah, so that's what exactly he means to say installing God in the altar. So, which God are we talking about here? Okay, no. So, are we talking about the avatars? Are we talking about the God? God, which God factor? Are we talking about the God factor? God, Lord Rama, Shiva, they are all avatars. If you talk about, so let's not get confused. There's a theory of Brahma. The theory of Brahma, in that in all the old Vedas, there is no description of avatars. Description of avatars came much later. The original theory of Vedas never talked about avatars. What we now, in the common language, talk about God is avatars. When we talk about through Vedas, the God is this, Brahma. That's been called as God. So as Sir has mentioned, it's the level of which level you are at. You can talk about this level, installing God. You keep thinking that Lord Shiva is there, sitting in your heart. But when you grow further, then you will start to go to that Brahma theory. It would be a different level. It would be entirely different level. Yeah.
So,
See,
What are you talking?
see, on that I remember Baba has always said, he is God, you are God. He knows it, you don't know it, right? He said it for years now, been with him for 40 years now, at least I have been with all this thing. So one day I had asked him, middle of the night almost, I said, I know 30 years you have been saying that, to his picture actually. Baba, you have been saying you're God, I'm God. I don't know. You know it, I don't know it. So why don't I know? Why don't I have that conviction of saying I am God? I said the middle of the night, Next day, after a week, there is, we used to meet at Ravi Mukamala's home, and he brought this video by Swami Sarpriyananda of defining God. Okay. And that was it. That one video explained takes you to who you are, your own divinity. I am Brahman. That's it. That's it. So going back to, yes, Baba, Krishna, Rama, we have prayed to all of them, believe in all of them, no problem. But I realized that when I understood what Baba is saying, he is God, I am God, what does it mean really? That was it. And that was the Brahman theory as he explained it.
Sairam, so just to answer Manoj's thing, there's two kinds of Brahman, right? Nirguna Brahman and Saguna Brahman. So Nirguna Brahman is the one who's attributeless, who's everywhere, every like Asha ji said, in every form, every like non-form also, right? But Saguna Brahman will manifest like this in the form of humans, in different Rama, Krishna, objects, earth, you, me, everything is Saguna Brahman. So it's God, in a way, actually, Ramakrishna explains it as he's both. He's both, not just Nirguna Brahman, he's both manifest. He's manifestless and manifested. So you have to accept it as the whole thing.
That's what exactly I wanted to bring up. I wanted to bring up.
How does that connect to happiness?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the happiness, so everyone has explained happiness. At the end, these were scientists who made all these theories of God, Sargun and Nirgun Brahm. So they were so intelligent when they created these Vedas. They were big scientists because they knew which part to stimulate up here, which will give you happiness. Going through these 5 koshas, at the end, so they are trying to exclude everything. So initially we'll get happiness by eating, drink. Then you will go inside, further inside. When you go beyond the 5 koshas, then he has realized that is what Brahm is. After realization, he would not say that this is Brahm. He becomes Brahm. He reaches that level. So that attaining that level will give you that peace beyond all happinesses. That's the ultimate goal, and that is what happiness is actually. I mean,
See, the thing is, when you look at installing, what does it mean by installing? See, when we look at a statue or this one, so you do the pratishta, prana pratishta, that is the installation, right? So what does it mean by installing God in your heart? That means you remove all the things that cover, because God is already there. You are Brahman. So that Brahman is already there in your heart. Only thing is we are not able to see that. We are not seeing it because it's covered with our ego and all those things. So we have to remove all that. When we remove all that, then only it's installing that God in our heart. So, and then all these things that Manoj explained, I think it's perfect. So then that you are Brahman, as Swami says, I am God, you are God, we are, everything is God.
See,
just because I'm so sorry. Just because we have that Agyan kosha, we have not penetrated through that. That's why you know it and I don't know it. That is the only thing left after that. Once we remove that kosha, then it will be unifying. Sorry.
So, when we have been talking about happiness, my only thought, the thought that came to me is that bliss is neither sorrow nor happiness. It is just a state of, where the mind is not playing any kind of a role in there. So, how do we get to that? And being constantly aware of our thoughts, where is it originating from? Why am I feeling this? Is it the body attachment that is giving this, a form? This thought is a form, right? Is it that is doing it? Being aware of it. Again, as Sabita said, there are people who are, going through a lot of pain and suffering. Let's not worry about that right now. Let's focus on what we are going through, because everything, even the small things, a small thorn getting into our leg, it hurts us and we feel miserable. We have to think about how to control our mind now, right? With everything fine and perfect, we have to control. So basically, every thought we have to kind of dissect and see, where is that thought coming from? Is it the body attachment that once you start dissecting every thought that comes through, slowly the thoughts quieten. And I think that is the practice we need to do. And we are not going to get happiness out of it. We are going to get only bliss, thoughtless stage, peace. Yeah.
I find that the happiness that came that very evening when I understood, put it that way. That's what you meant, that you are God, I'm God. I understand what you're saying. That's all that came. Absolutely, that's nothing more. But that happiness that came from that little understanding is beyond even thinking what it was. It just changed me completely. And that's how I've been running after, as I say, Advaita Vedanta. Then it's a new life given to me, that Advaita Vedanta. What did it give me? It made me understand, is God, I'm God. What does that mean? That's all, nothing more. That's the ultimate happiness. Nobody can take it away from you either.
So putting it in perspective, the union with God is yoga, right? Yoga is the union with God. And there's, again, we all talked about it, different ways of union with God, right? Now, what Sabita said is Gnana Yoga. So you're dissecting the thoughts, the process. You're doing step by step by step by step. And every time you do it, you make some progress. And ultimately, you will reach to that same union. What Baba is saying is the easiest way, because this takes a lot of discipline that we may not have, the time we may not have. A lot of times we get caught up in life, and we want to, but we don't spend time. So next thing you know, we get caught up in the same cycle. Same things irritate us. Same things make us mad. Same things make us sad. So you have to catch yourself. It's a daily thing, daily practice, right? The Gnana Yoga is not an easy path for a lot of people. That's why they say it's very hard, because every moment of your life you have to keep rationalizing it, So, but if you do this, you install God in your heart, that's devotion. That's the most easiest way, because if he's filling your heart with love, there is no space for anything else. Everything else will dissipate slowly. That's why they say devotion is the easiest one, because all you got to do is fill your thoughts with him. There's no space for anything else, no space for fear, no space for unhappiness. Where is the space? He's filling everything in your life, right? So that's why that becomes. And then there's, of course, there are other yogas like Raja Yoga, meditation. They're all, people have tried, proved, yes, it can happen. But I think that is why I don't know if it answers your question, but
so I feel it was like knowing my own self rather than knowing God. I knew he's God. That was certain. But you just got kind of a glimpse that, yeah, that's what it is. Then that's what I am. That knowing that is what God is and that's what I am. That was the end, beyond the words to even explain why. I did not put God in my heart. I didn't do anything. But then they say, that's what he means. It's God. It was already there, but it just showed it who you are inside you. And that was it. That's it. Yeah.
So like all of this, and I keep, while all of y'all were talking, I'm listening. Somebody talking? Yeah, go ahead. Oh, while everybody was talking for some, I got distracted and I was going back to what Shobha said about Trevor Noah and his mom. Yeah. Is it mom? And like just like how much faith there is, because if you have faith, John Matarino, some of you know him, he always used to say, you cannot have faith if you have fear, which is like worry, right? Because we think we're in control. So I've just been thinking like, in the grand scheme of things, when the little things, not little, but, for everybody, what may be a real problem for someone else is not that a problem, is still a problem, right? Or a challenge. But just I've been thinking about how if something was where, at times you're like, Swami, why is this happening to me when I just am like, okay, how do I spin this into positive? And I think it goes back to the slide before, that you just have to somehow, like, I guess, thank Swami for the experience. When you say, how can we attain and wise love? Like, I guess just like thank Swami to that I have this experience, so that, and somehow turn it into a positive, because I think I think I'm in control, but I'm not in control. I'm not articulating myself properly,
But
but
you're saying grateful, being grateful.
yeah,
basically.
gratitude, right?
Yeah.
So, and then also, as Manoj ji said, it also goes back to karma, because we have to figure it out. Whatever we did bad or good in the last, that's what they say. We have to make amends, right? So I think if we keep reminding ourselves of that and move forward, it's a lot to, as Shobha was saying, it's a lot to process. Like, when you're going through a challenge, when you're going through a good time, you're not thinking like, oh, I got this because of my karma, all of that. You're not thinking any of that. You keep thinking like life is great. But when it's the challenge, that's when, and it's tough to put all this. It's like when you're studying for your exam, and then you have to put it like in theory and put it all together, like everything, it's kind of tough. That's what this is, right? So when the challenge comes, he's like, okay, I've given you all the tools, you studied for it, now I'm putting you the test. How are you going to figure this out? And that's exactly how I'm thinking this. So like, how am I going to capture 9 lessons, 9 sessions, and move forward? Because it's the challenge that gets us, I think. Right, Sairam? Sorry? Yeah. Yeah.
Please go ahead, Venkat.
Sairam, see, this karma theory is we have to understand it a little bit. Sorry?
It's a tricky concept.
Tricky one.
Yes.
See, the thing is, when we are facing a challenge, it doesn't mean, I mean, karma can be easily that route. You can say, oh, it's all my karma. Okay. And then you can fail to do your duty at that point.
Inaction.
Okay, that's not good, because you have to do your duty. You have to go through and do all the work, and not attribute it to karma. Your consequences could be the opportunities that you get at a point could be due to the past karma, but that doesn't mean that you attribute to the karma and not do your work at that time. So we have to understand that a little bit.
So karma, when the tricky part of karma is it the cause or the effect? So now, right now, if I'm doing something, or if I got something, let's say the lottery, is it the effect of my good karmas in the past that I'm getting the lottery? Or it could be something bad I did and I got the lottery, or something bad is going to happen further. Which one is it? We can't figure out.
That I
You
have the
shouldn't
answer.
go in that direction, because it's a slippery slope. We can't, because we have a finite mindset. We can only see what's happening right now. Imagine what is going to happen. If you go into that, it's a bad cycle to get into. That's why you shouldn't get too involved in the karmas. You just leave it, say it's up to God. Let me do what I can. And that's why Bhagavad Gita is very good, practical book.
Yeah.
You just leave the result. Do your stuff, leave the result. But do the good stuff, not bad stuff.
But here is the thing about, we call it karma, but the consequences of those actions, when we have to bear it, that is what causes suffering. See, It's not, it's
Could
not
be
like
suffering
Dundee.
or happiness, right?
But we don't
Whatever
care.
it-
When we are happy, we are not even talking about it. We experience it
does.
and we feel good about it. Yes, please go
So-
ahead. Manu.
So these theories were made specifically for different contexts. So when you are getting good, you put it on your on Almighty. Okay. When it's bad, put it on your karma. So all these theories were made very intelligently, so that when it's bad, it comes on you. That you might not have done good karmas. When it's good, then don't take it on you. Then you give it credit to God. So that you don't get that ego, you don't blow up. So they have different contexts. When it's bad, it's your karma. When it's good, it's him. By doing that, you have that gratitude feeling. Then they have, it's a practice of gratitude. By doing gratitude, you are definitely getting something stimulated here, maybe some extra dopamine. You get that positive feeling, positive feeling, positive feeling. They were made so, that's why Bhakti Yoga, Lord Krishna very clearly said in second chapter of Gita, Gyan Yoga ka rasta bahut mushkil hai. It's a very tough path of Gyan Yoga. It specifically mentioned do Bhakti Yoga. Once you elevate in that, you will automatically be there with unification. That's why Bhakti Yoga was given more importance. That's what we are talking about.
What I wanted to add was often getting through the sufferings is quicker than thinking about it before and after. That actually brings more agony. So that's all I wanted.
I just was thinking, this is with respect to what Sabita ji was saying. See, where this is, I was reminded of this two nyayas, the Markata Kishora Nyaya and Marjala Kishora Nyaya. So one is, you imagine yourself to be a kitten where the mother cat takes care of you completely. It grabs you and moves you wherever it finds you to be safe. It takes care of you. So you completely surrender to that mother, which will take care of you. You don't have any problem. You don't have any worry. The mother is going to take care. The other is like a monkey, that is Marjala Kishora. So the monkey, the
Grabs
baby
onto-
monkey will grab on to the mother. And even when it's jumping from one tree to the other, even when it jumps from one tree to the other, the baby is the one that is holding. So we can take it either way, but both will help us to install that divinity in us. So either path is good. One is, I think, the Bhakti Yoga, the other is Jnana Yoga. So the difference is there, but both will be leading to that same realization of installing that divinity.
Right.
So I remember one incident, what Subhadraji said. The actual problem might be the smaller, right? Thinking about it, I remember one incident. I had a friend when I came to US very first time. So he has a lot of struggle in India to survive, and finally he came here. But even after coming here, he was talking about always that one. No matter what, how many times we meet, he was always sorrow. And why? Oh, this thing happened, this thing happened. So end of the day, so the easiest way and hardest way, both, is let go. Whether it's good or bad, the moment it happens, the snapshot, let go. That's all. I think that's the hardest, also easiest.
So talking about bhakti and jnana, right? I mean, we were all talking. So Swami recently, one of the students, Swami students, he was speaking, and he said that Swami told him he was bhakti, he was going into bhakti only. So Swami, he pulled him and said, hey, listen, that's not enough. You have to have the jnana also. Bhakti alone is not enough. So you have to have both of them in order to achieve your, self-realization.
Absolutely. So we talked about happiness. We will, if everyone is interested, we'll continue this discussion a little bit. before we move along. So next week we'll continue with discussing happiness, and then we can move on to through the chapter again. I mean, we can stop whenever we want to. I don't want to prolong this, but if this is something that we want to continue, again, I'll put this up on our WhatsApp. Please respond to that, because this is the response to your response that I'm building this out. So again, just a quote there just before we move on. So after this, we'll be discussing we'll continue with our discussion and eventually come through the control of mind. That's where we also we wanted to actually also discuss in this chapter. So we can definitely start talking about that. Asha ji had actually sent us a little story about karma and dharma. You remember that? Okay. She sent us a little, and so that the karma and dharma story, I think I would like to talk about it next week. I know it's revisiting and it's out of the sync, but it totally falls in sync with the entire Bhagavata Vahini where we are, and the karma of Parikshit that we talked about, and how he is born, already a blessed soul, and the karma and dharma of Yudhishthira that we generally talked about on his experiences and why he's feeling so, I guess why fear is in him. So with all of that, we have multiple ways to go through here. So I'm looking for everyone's input into this so that we can build it according to what we want to learn as a group. So with that, I think I just wanted to bring out the life application. Let us try to be happy and focus on defining it for yourself. If you can make a note, that's great. If you already know it, that's awesome. But if you could share, that would actually help all of us. So with that, we can end today's session with Om and Three Shantis. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sai Ram, thank you everyone for joining today. I know.